back after the Great Depression, it was very common that full families were living in little tent cities. And there wasn't a stigma to that. There were just people trying to survive and everybody understood it. Now there's a stigma to all of it.
So how does the current demographic of the homeless population compare to what people saw decades ago?
31% of all first-time new homeless people are a baby boomer. 35% are women. 11% are children under the age of 18. 8% are college age. 5% are veterans.
But unfortunately, so many of them come out and they don't get what they were promised.
How often are you seeing homeless children come through your doors these days?
It's really happening more and more. And I've watched people have babies in the woods. I've watched people bring babies in. I've watched homeless families come in. A lot of times they're just trying to figure out how to survive.
So if someone is born into homelessness, what are the chances that they'll eventually manage to escape that situation?
That's a really, really good question.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Lewis with Imagine Marketing. I'm joined by Pastor Scott, who is the CEO and founder of Matthew's Hope, as well as Shelley Bradford, who is the president and executive director of Matthew's Hope. Welcome to this week's episode of Straight Talk, No BS with Matthew's Hope, presented by Imagine Marketing. At Imagine Marketing, we put in the extra effort to craft a tailored strategy for success. We also offer photography, videography, and even podcast production services. So book your free consultation today. In this episode, we'll be talking about the changing demographics of homelessness and what is causing these trends. Shelley, what do you think most people still think of in their minds when they picture a homeless person?
I think they think of what has happened in LA when they have the streets of LA covered in homeless people. I think that they think of somebody sitting on the corner begging for money. Crazy thing I learned when I actually joined the Matthew's Hope team is most of those people aren't homeless. But I think a lot of people still think of them as being homeless. I don't think that they think of truly what our guests are a lot of times.
Good. And where they were before. How they got there.
Yep. And what their story was, how to get there.
Okay. Scott, how does that traditional idea of representation of homelessness that many people have seen for decades on TV and in movies compared to today's reality?
Well, it's funny because I was just popped in my head. Remember the old Andy Griffin show or Mayberry RFD? I think it became that. And they used to have, what was his name? Gosh. But in any case, there was like the town drunk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd lock him up for the night and then they'd let him out, what have you. And if it's funny, if you went back after the Great Depression, it was very common that full families were living in little tent cities because they simply could not afford a home anymore. They'd lost everything. And it's kind of interesting. You go back there and there wasn't a stigma to that. There were just people trying to survive and everybody understood it. Now there's a stigma to all of it. And to piggyback what Shelley said is a lot of the guys on the corner, that's not a homeless person. I mean, we've seen, and this will get me a nasty gram. They're modern day gypsies is what I call them. I mean, they're literally coming from Romania and their job is to come here and to set up. And sometimes they'll play a violin. Sometimes
try to sell roses.
They'll have their children there. You rarely see a male. The male is usually off in a truck somewhere. Or comes back later on to pick them up. And they're running a scam. They're living in a home nicer than most of us would hope to live in.
We've taken time to watch them actually walk to their nice cars that are nicer than what we drive.
Oh, I have followed them to their gated community. And I can speak from this because we know we looked into it. It's like, because we'll get calls and people say, well, they'll finally get to me and they'll say, well, Scott, I don't understand why you guys can't do anything to help these people. This poor woman's out here with these young children. And they don't speak English and stuff. I think they're speaking maybe some kind of Spanish or whatever. No, they aren't. And we've gone out and we've found out it's the same people. What's interesting is you'll see them move from like the Publix Plaza to the Walmart, from the Walmart to the Sam's. Yeah. Okay, and then they'll move across town, and the new group comes over here. You see it, and now what's interesting is having locations in both Orange and Brevard County. We have seen some of the same people that have literally gone an hour over and set new people over. So you have that. I think there's also this idea that all these drug addicts and alcoholics have become homeless. Again, I'm not saying that never happens. But the truth is alcoholism and any kind of addiction is typically coming as a byproduct of homelessness because they're self-medicating because we have not funded or made available the mental health care they need. We have over time, and I don't know that I necessarily believe this when I first started Matthew Soap 15 years ago, because coming out of my own homelessness, but we have really learned, and now that I look back, to my own, it's 99% of the time there was some type of trauma involved. A loss of a child is a big one people don't recover from. Sometimes a loss of a spouse, sometimes a loss of a parent or a brother who that was their anchor and they're gone and people just fell apart and never could put it back together. So that trauma aspect of it is why mental health has become, why we've invested so heavily in mental health the last few years and will continue to do so. It's a big part of it. So there's all kinds of misinformation. I think some of it's done on purpose. I think others done out of ignorance. We need to change the narrative, how things are said. I've talked about this before where they say, well, this homeless guy burnt down this house. No. What happened is an arsonist burnt down that house. That happened to be homeless, but arson is a form of mental illness. But when you say a homeless person did it, now everybody's afraid, well, these homeless people are burning down houses.
They're all going to get together and burn down a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the truth is, we have found over time is they are a direct reflection of our society, just like everything else. I remember when I was in seminary and they taught us back then that 7% of our congregation suffered from some level of mental health issue. Now, some of it could be minor, light depression, 20 milligrams of Zoloft fixes it. Others more severe. But you think about that. So that means if that's the case, that means every police force, every medical professional, every fireman, pick something. Out of that 7% are what some people say they're just complete wackadoodles. Okay. So put that in perspective with everything else. It's a reflection of our society. If they were a bad person as a homeless person, there's a very good chance they were a bad person in general.
Correct.
Same thing with cops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some cops are amazing on how they deal with the homeless. They're compassionate. They really talk to them with dignity. And then we have other ones that come in there. I call them the Barney Fifes, puffing up their chest. They got the big vest on and they're going to got to move on. You're going to give me some trouble. I'll show you trouble. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It doesn't help anything.
Yeah.
So how does the
bullying doesn't get us anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does the current demographic of the homeless population compare to what people saw decades ago?
Want me to rattle off the numbers?
Please.
Okay. Right now, here's what's interesting. So around the country, every year is what's called a point in time count. Okay. It's a homeless census. The challenge with it, it's done in a very short period of time. The greater challenge that we have found this past year was because of the new laws in Florida, State Statute 1365, making it illegal to be sleeping outside and what have. People are in constant motion. So that's made it harder for us to get them services they need because some have gone deeper into the woods if they found woods, and others are just constantly moving. So the one thing that did match up to what we track and what they tracked to report to HUD was within less than a point across the board, 31% of all first-time new homeless people are a baby boomer.
Good.
31%. We have found that's moving to a full third here shortly. 35% are women. 11% are children under the age of 18. 8% are college age. 5% are veterans. Now, let's just stop there for a minute. There's a lot of people that look at homelessness and go, well, they made their bed, let them sleep in it, right? So let's forget those people that just made poor decisions and what have you. If you just added up the numbers I just gave you, that's over 50% of all homeless people. Let's just focus on them. And here's what's going to happen. It's going to free up a lot more money for those people that no one else cares about. I mean, that's just the reality of what we're saying. I don't know that I saw a number specifically on disabilities.
No.
What I will tell you is that a very large part of our population that's coming in now suffers from some level of physical because I say some of it's both, mental disability. And, we're seeing people coming in missing limbs that are homeless that can't get disability. They keep getting turned down. I've had soldiers that have come back, they have a DD-214 and everything that says they literally lost an arm in combat, but they can't get disability. They're denied over and over again. And that's why some of them give up and they start to self-medicate.
I find it so interesting that they had the strongest head to fight for our country.
Yeah.
But they won't fight for themselves. Yeah. My dad was one.
Yeah.
My dad was one. It took him almost dying for us to go, listen, you've got to get this help that you were promised. And but unfortunately, so many of them come out and they don't get what they were promised.
Once they've been turned down a few times,
they just give up.
They just go, to hell with it. I know how to live in the woods. I know how to, they'll just go on the streets, which is really, really sad that and I believe the number is higher than 5%. We only have the numbers that are reported. We don't have the unreported numbers.
Well, and one thing that really surprised me this year is that especially with the new laws, if somebody's been arrested, they're not counted. But they come out tomorrow. They're still going to be homeless.
Right. Oh wow.
Well, that blew my mind. I was like, well, wait, but they're still homeless. Why aren't we counting them?
Something else that a lot of people don't realize too is a number of years ago, if you lived in what I call, for a nicer way of saying it, cheesy hotel. In other words, some of these hotels that some of them don't even have running water or power anymore, but they still somehow are still open. It's weird. That was not considered stable housing. HUD changed that definition a number of years ago. So that's now considered stable housing, which is ridiculous. So the numbers that are reported are way below what's true. And the numbers that the point in time count showed for Orange and Brevard County, if they were true, it means Matthew's Hope is serving every homeless person in both counties. And we know that's not true.
Right.
We cover 17 municipalities. There's a whole lot more than that. So, underreported, underserved. I mean, you're watching now with the new budget cuts that have been made. We've made huge budget cuts in the VA system. We've done two things. We've now unemployed veterans that were working for the Veterans Administration, other forms of government that are now out of office. You then put them in a position of we're having to pay unemployment or sometimes buy them out on that. What did that solve? But now what happens is we're already seeing up the backups across the board. Anything government-wise as far as social services or services to veterans has come to nearly a halt because there's just not enough people to handle all of it. So is there a savings? Long term, I don't think so.
Yeah.
What are some unique challenges that elderly and disabled individuals experiencing homelessness face?
Well, and I hate to dominate this at all because I know that Shelley has her thoughts, but there's just things that, people don't think about. I'm 63 years old. Stuff starts to happen. The good news is, I don't have to wear Depends yet. Okay. But the truth is a lot of our folks have to, and they don't have access to it. And it's very expensive. We have older people typically get more UTIs. Okay. Again.
And they don't know it.
They don't know it. And now it's poisoning their entire system. They're not getting, most of us at a certain age start to take medications for blood pressure and, for high sugar levels, for water retention. And what happens, they don't have access to those. So we're seeing these women come in that have lost everything after their spouse died, and their ankles are as big around as my thighs. for two reasons. One, they aren't on the proper medications. And number two, they're living in their car or van, and your body was designed to lay down half the hours we're alive. And so you see that. Then, I'm going to use I may have spoken about this in the past, but I'm going through this with my mom recently, where her husband of 45 years passed away, and her income went from 109,000 to 29,000 overnight. And as of 8 weeks, the stuff she's supposed to be getting from the VA, which is 55% of his retirement, still hasn't shown up. In fact, what did happen, though, is because David didn't make it to the full end of the month, I think he died 3 days before the month end, the money that had gone into her account, which is about $6,000 or $7,000, was backed out a few days later.
That happened to my mom as well. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people don't realize. And then it usually was taking 2 to 4 weeks. Now, because of the cutbacks, we're at 8 weeks. The money still hasn't shown up. She got 5% of his, because he went on retired a second time through civil service. She got 5% of that pension. She lost her Social Security, but gained his. When it was all said and done, she had lowered about 3/4 of income, and that all happened overnight, and not all of it has come in. So she's now living off savings until that happens. Some people don't have that savings. Right. So there's so many things that play into this. When you talk about, like I tell people all the time, my mom and I are both baby boomers. She's almost exactly 18 years older than me. The only good thing is we appreciate the same music. but it's given me also, I'm calling it the silver tsunami.
Yeah.
When you look at, and I don't know the exact numbers, but baby boomers, I believe, I was born in 62. I think they started my mom was 44. I think it started in 1942 and went to like 1968, somewhere in there. It's a 25 year span. So baby boomers are just starting to die. This means what it's showing us, and I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, you're going to see this trend for the next 25 years. That's scary when you don't think nobody's talking about it. We're talking about it and have been talking about it for a while. I haven't heard anybody.
Seen the increase already drastic.
Rapidly over the last few months, like something we'd never seen before. We've always had older people, nothing like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it true that Matthew's Hope was recently able to offer some life-changing assistance to one of your disabled guests?
Oh, Melissa.
Yeah,
Melissa and Tom. So Melissa was born with cerebral palsy. And it progressed over the years to where she's completely wheelchair bound and literally unable to really care for herself. I thought she was a paraplegic. I guess that's not the right term when you get to, I just don't know. She's wheelchair bound, has a little bit of movement in her hand, and she can control her chair. She can feed some things to herself, but for most part, Tom has to bathe her, has to feed her and everything else. And they've been living in the woods for a number of years. And we, with another group called Circles of Care and a gentleman by the name of James from the Brevard Homeless Coalition, went to work on this. It's taken us about 2 years. And Tom and Melissa just moved into an apartment in just the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And here, I'll add this to it. And I don't know if I even told you this yet. So, we're trying to find her a lift chair, but when she's in her wheelchair, it's hard for her to pull up to a table. And so I called one of the CEOs of Advent Health is on our board. And I called Parker over there. I said, hey, can you get me access to one of those tables they use for the hospital beds? It kind of comes over underneath you.
Okay.
And what's really cool is Advent Health delivered one to us a few days ago. And we're going to be able to give that to them and make their life that much easier. But how cool is that her health will be so much better? Because as it was, they were getting onto our bus. We have lifts on some of our buses and bringing them a few days a week. And Thomas, as things would settle down, we'd have Thomas go bathe her and make sure her catheter and all those type of things are being taken care of. So it's pretty cool.
That is
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So we talked a lot about baby boomers. What about babies and children? How often are you seeing homeless children come through your doors these days?
It's really happening more and more. And it just kind of breaks your heart because they did nothing to deserve this. We used to say, Scott said it and I adopted it. We used to say nobody's born homeless. That's just not the case anymore. And in my 7+ years of being here, I've watched that trajectory change. I've watched people have babies in the woods. I've watched people bring babies in. I've watched homeless families come in. And, a lot of times they're just trying to figure out how to survive. We had a family that was living in their church kitchen for a while, and the landlord found out and was going to throw the entire church out if they didn't leave.
It's and again, we've talked in the past of the Shelley's challenges of having children with special needs. We've had people have children born with special needs and are living in the gosh darn woods or in a car.
Mm-hmm.
And those special needs, if not given the proper physical therapy and foundation, what have you, you have mental development that doesn't take place and physical development. Shelley was that mom who made sure her kids became as independent as possible. But when you're living in a shed, a car,
Mm-hmm.
In the woods in a tent, that child's disability was taken to a whole nother level because they don't develop mentally and physically properly, because it takes it really does take us medical teams and mental health people and all these different people to help make sure that child becomes independent as possible. And if they don't, here's the next thing that's going to happen. Mom and dad are going to eventually die. That child's going to be on the street. People say, well, they get disability. Typical disability check is like $709. Okay. So not only is it not enough money, they don't even know how to manage it. Okay. So, while you go on about disability, it means you simply don't know.
Right. Very true. So if someone is born into homelessness, what are the chances that they'll eventually manage to escape that situation?
Oh,
That's a really, really good question.
we have seen second and third generation homelessness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because often what happens is they're born into a system. And what happens is, rather than develop a work ethic like most of us have, they become dependent on that system.
They learn how to work within the system that has been introduced to them, instead of learning how to work outside of that system and, like you said, become independent.
It used to make me really angry. It really did. And then I realized they're just doing what they know.
That's just
Yeah,
what
they don't know any
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I think when you see some of the cuts that have recently come through our federal government on different things like mental health and child development and all this stuff, I think we are going to create another generation.
Compound a bigger problem.
something that we
A
need the
bigger,
most.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, sometimes an easy sweep, a broad stroke isn't the right one because it creates more. Now, will it be my problem? No, I'm 63 years old. There's a good chance I'm not living 63 more. In fact, scientifically, as strange as it sounds sitting here, I've got about 15 years left. That seems really weird as I sit here.
Let's stop weirding.
But let's talk about reality, okay? And so it's not my problem. I think too often we keep saying it's not my problem. And that means we dump it on our kids and our grandkids. And I just feel like there might be hell to pay for that.
Definitely. Does
It's not a problem.
yeah. Does Matthew's Hope offer any services for children?
Yes, we actually have a preschool, which has been a great thing, and it's been fun to watch as we've watched these kids develop and learn skills and try to break them out of that thinking, because I just went on the wrong train here. But the thing is these kids can come to our preschool as long as their parents are working. And if they're homeless, we're going to do the best that we can to get them in there at no cost, no tuition. And
it's Montessori based.
It's Montessori based, right?
So a lot of hands-on learning. But the coolest thing we've done recently is we have added a child behavioral specialist
Correct.
to our team.
Yes.
Which is so cool, because a lot of the children we have, these kids have seen things that no one should see. They've experienced things. And a lot of times, and keep in mind, this is the only area that we go out of homelessness. So the way it works for if you're homeless, as long as you can show us you're going to school and working and or both, you got childcare from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and it's going to cost you nothing other than stay in our guidelines.
What a blessing.
If you're in deep need, then we're going to look at your W-2 and we're going to look at your latest pay stub. But again, we're going to hold your feet to the fire on that. And then if we have spots, and sometimes we do, in Brevard, we have one of our families is a NASA engineer, okay, and they help offset the cost of everybody else for what's going on because they can pay full board and want to be there. But a lot of these kids still, when you meet them when they're young, again, it's like meeting any other homeless person, lack of eye contact, lack of physical touch, all these different things. So when Megan Gillambach, who's our preschool director, came to me and said, "Hey, we have an opportunity here." Shelley and I didn't even think twice about it. Hire her, because that's going to have the investment now is a lot cheaper now than trying to fix these people.
Definitely.
15, 20, 25 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And we should look at investing in people in general like that, because that old thing when I was growing up, pay me now or pay me later, but what you paid later was a lot more.
It's the same.
Well, Governor DeSantis, President Trump, Congressman Webster, what's the goofball's name? Randy Fine. Oh, yes.
Favorite.
The brilliant Randy Fine.
Sure, favorite.
Okay. All you guys, again, step back for just a second. Whether you're Christian or Jewish, I'm hearing him called the Hebrew Hammer. What is it with all these nicknames? Okay. What are we? Kids? Gangs?
Maybe.
It's like when I go up to New Jersey and I used to meet my Charlene's dad just passed recently, but he knew some interesting characters up there, and they all have nicknames, but they were all kind of bookies and stuff. Okay. These are supposed to be government officials, but anyhow, long story short, Sleepy Joe. What the hell was that? Anyhow, I see my ADD kicks in and I go off other places, but it's entertaining sometimes. Who knows? At least it is.
That's more views.
Yeah, but I have to remember what I was talking about to begin with. The bottom line is we need to step back and really look at this stuff before we put policy into place and realize what we're gaining, what we're losing. Because ultimately, if it saves you a nickel now, it's probably going to cost you $1 later. Mm-hmm. So spend the nickel now, okay? And then look at how we can do things better. For some reason, we can't seem to do that. And you got to remember, as a general whole, these people have won a popularity contest. Right. It doesn't mean they're any more qualified than anybody else to make these decisions.
Right.
And if you're not surrounding yourself with people that can outthink you, then you probably aren't a really good leader. Mm-hmm. The truth is, I'm a high school dropout. I'm dyslexic, ADD, a little OCD, and God knows what I haven't been diagnosed for. I learned to surround myself with people that were smarter than me, knew more than me. I had a teacher that saved my life years ago, a 5th grade teacher named Mr. Brenneman back in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And what he said to me one day, it's Scott, because he realized my learning disabilities. He says, it's not what you know, it's that you know where to find it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I try to teach that to our guests too, because many of them do have learning disabilities. I find that many of them are dyslexic. They have learning disabilities, what have you. And that's a real struggle. And some of us have learned how to deal with it better than others. But the point being, if you're going to lead, then lead. Lead by surrounding yourself with people that know more than you do. Right. You won a popularity contest. Now use that platform that you won and surround yourself with people that can help you build good policy. And we need to do this because good policy is not just locking people up and throwing away the key, ignoring the homeless population, ignoring our elderly, ignoring our children. All this is going to be a big price to pay at some point.
And do that.
Now I'm off my soapbox. And for those who want to write me, just know I was a Republican for years. I became an independent. I'm still fiscally conservative and probably a little more liberal side when it comes to social. Now you know.
Thank you for all that insight, Scott.
don't you dare take that out of this. I expect to see that right there. It just
Thank you too, Shelley. Thank you both. This is very insightful and educational as well. Thank you all for listening and watching. Please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you next time.
I'm not nearly as cynical as people think I am.
You're all good.